Hi everyone and welcome to my top 10 tips for writing an excellent essay. Chances are, if you're watching this video, that you have an essay to write and you're putting off writing it or are a bit stuck. I've been there before, so hopefully these tips will help you out. This is mainly for like an English type essay, but if you're writing a history essay or something, some of these tips will also work for you as well. Before we start, just a little bit of a disclaimer. If your teacher has specifically said a way that they want you to write your essay and one of my tips goes against that, then definitely write it the way your teacher has said to, because ultimately they're going to be marking it and you want to always try to aim for their kind of writing style. But this is just the kind of things that I've picked up over the years as to what my teachers like and have generally worked for exams and stuff too. So let's get started. Tip number 1, and this will be really simple, but make sure you understand the question. If your question starts with how, that's usually going to want you to explain the kind of techniques and devices that the author or writer is using, or if it says compare, then you're going to need to use more than one text to look at the similarities and differences between it. So before you even start it at all, make sure you look at the question and understand what you need to answer. Tip number 2 is just to spend a couple of minutes planning. I don't really like planning, but basically it will outline everything that you want to include in your essay so that you know you've got enough points to fulfill your word count and that you're not going to go over it. It's also worth spending this time to pick out some quotes from the piece of writing that you're looking at, so you're not spending ages and ages flicking through what you want to write, looking for the quote to support what you're trying to say. So do that all beforehand and make sure it's all laid out before you start writing your essay. Also on this point, don't spend ages and ages planning either. It's important to do it, but only spend a few minutes. Don't put off actually writing your essay just because you're spending ages and ages planning. That's not writing your essay. Tip number 3, and that is the introduction. Make sure you keep it brief. You just want to outline the points that you're going to cover. It's kind of a bit pointless. You're not going to get many marks for it. Most of the marks are going to be in the bulk of your essay. We kind of feel like it's a necessity. It's a bit like the introduction of my video. It just kind of said what I was going to talk about, but it wasn't really needed. You could have gone straight into it by just looking at the title of the video or of your essay. Tip number 4, and this is for the main bulk of your essay, so your main paragraphs, and you want to structure them using P. So that stands for point, example and explanation. You want to start your paragraph with the point that you're making, then you want to find an example that backs up that point and then go on to explain it using your knowledge and what kind of connotations you get out from it, and basically your point of view. I'll give you an example of the PEE structure from a Streetcar Named Desire essay that I wrote. So the point is, the playwright also presents Blanche using men to cope with the death of Alan. Then the evidence is, in one of her key speeches she states, after the death of Alan, intimacies with strangers was all I seemed able to fill my empty heart with. Then the third bit goes on to say, this could suggest that Blanche holds no interest at all in the men she interacts with, but instead needs intimate contact in order to feel loved and desired. So that's the explanation bit, and then there's a couple of other bits that go on from that evidence. But that's the structure you want to use throughout the whole main block of your essay: point, evidence, explanation. Number 5 is to use some linking words such as firstly, therefore, in contrast, on the other hand. This is just going to help your essay to flow a bit better. Of course, don't use them everywhere throughout your essay, use them in the correct places and it'll just help your essay to read a bit better. Tip number 6 is to consider alternative interpretations. This just means that if you're making a point about something, try and look at it from another point of view so that you have two contrasting opinions about the same thing. This is just going to help your essay to be a bit more sophisticated, and your teacher's going to be able to give you more marks for this as well. Tip number 7 is to write hesitantly. This just means that you're going to be using vocabulary such as could, perhaps, may. It's just a kind of a writing style sort of thing, which my teachers certainly like. It's because you're not entirely sure of what the author wants to do. This is just your interpretations of what they've written. So try and write a little bit hesitantly. Tip number 8 is to write a lot about a little, not a little about a lot. This basically means that you should take your quote and try and write as much as you can about it. Don't include a whole paragraph of quotes and then write a tiny bit about it. You basically want to try and include as many interpretations and explanations as you can about a small thing, even as small as a word. This is close texture analysis, so you could take something like the word red, so maybe that was describing the colour of the curtains in the room, and you could say what that kind of suggests. So it might suggest passion or blood, death. What kind of things can you get from that? So try and bring it down to the smallest level possible rather than writing about the entire book. Number 9 is don't tell the story. This is a trap that lots of people fall into. They start saying, oh, and then they get in the car and they go down the road, and your teacher does not want to know that. The teacher will already know the book inside out, back to front. You should always assume that. What they want to know is what you got from reading the book or the poem, whatever. They want to know your interpretations and your viewpoint of it instead. That's what's going to get you the marks, not retelling the story. So as soon as you feel like you're saying what happens in the book, stop right there and go back, get rid of it, and start saying what you can get from the quotes instead. And tip number 10 is the conclusion. Basically you should reach a natural endpoint and conclusion, and the conclusion is kind of like the introduction. It's a little bit pointless, you won't get many marks if any for it, but you kind of feel like it's a necessity. Make sure you try and answer the question, and you should have reached that from your points throughout your essay. And the extra bonus tip is check through your work. There's nothing worse than handing in your essay and then your teacher starts reading it and comes across loads of punctuation errors and wrong spellings and everything. So make sure that you've got this right. Read it aloud even, that's kind of the best thing, because you're better mistakes from that, or get your friend or your mum or dad to read your essay, because a fresh set of eyes might be able to pick up errors that you've kind of missed from having read it millions and millions of times. So hopefully you won't have any mistakes when you hand it in, and also make sure that when you're copying quotes out from a book or your poem or whatever, that you copy it out accurately. Don't assume that you know what the next few words are. Make sure you get them right and spell them how they spelt them in the text. So hopefully these tips will help you out and give you a bit of a starter to try and get on with writing your essay. I know it's difficult, but just get going and then you'll get to the end eventually, and that's one essay down and loads more to go. But I hope you found this video helpful. If you've got any questions or requests or anything, leave them as a comment in the bottom of this video. And if you're really stuck on a text or something, then ask me, maybe I've studied it before. But if not, I recommend the website SparkNotes. I'll leave a link in the description bar. They have done loads of different study guides on different books and poems and stuff, so hopefully that will be able to help you out if you're doing a specific text that you really are difficult and stuck with. So that's everything for this video. I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye!